How can I 20F grow this summer without him 22M? Sorry in advance, this post is long ASF. TLDR. My boyfriend broke up with me because he needs to figure things out about himself, and he doesn't have the time or space to because of obligations he has this summer. We may reconnect at the end of August. Please give your thoughts and advice. I'm writing this post to help me process some recent events. My boyfriend, or now ex-boyfriend I guess, and I have broken up. We started dating in January 2023, and have been friends since January 2022. He means the world to me. He is incredibly ambitious. He has dreams and goals. Some of them are outlandish, some of them are practical. Most of them are things I never would have thought to shoot for in life. He's very smart, and he always makes me laugh. He's devilishly handsome, and everything I ever wanted. Whenever people met us or we talked about each other to others, they'd always comment on what a power couple we are, how well we go together, how lucky we are, etc. The thought of no longer being with him has left me with a feeling of something being broken inside of me. I've lost one of my best friends, and a piece of myself. I know even if I end up with someone else, I will never feel the comfort I felt with him. He and I were just in step, always knowing what the other person needed. I don't think that ever changed. Life just started to get incredibly difficult. To go through almost 2.5 years of friendship and romance would be a lot, but ultimately what led to our demise was us not supporting each other when it really mattered. Lots of little things happened and they were brushed to the side, but some things hit too deep, and it was just bad timing when they did. It all starts at the induction ceremony of the pre-medical honor fraternity that I was the president of this school year. It was a hard role to fill, and I was stressed about many other parts of my life. But all of the pressure was on me to host this event, and it was a huge financial and emotional burden. It was also very difficult because it was a moment I was looking forward to more than my own graduation, because I was receiving my graduation cord in stole, and passing on my e-board stole to the next president. I brought my boyfriend as my date. Tensions were very high. After the catering was picked up and brought to venue, I was setting it up. My boyfriend came over to me and started talking about how he was hungry and wanted to sneak some food, and I told him he was being a child in front of one of my friends. A gross overreaction, and rude, and wrong, I know. It was military ball the next day for my boyfriend, and I was supposed to go with him, and I didn't want to, and earlier in the evening I had said that in front of my boyfriend and that same friend. My boyfriend, because he's amazing and chill, brushed it off initially and we had a good start to the ceremony. Towards the end I could tell he was getting antsy. He had to be up early the next morning for a fitness test which ended up getting cancelled, but I could tell he was annoyed and not feeling it. At the end of the night we were supposed to go back to his dorm, but he expressed his upset and left without me because I took too long saying goodbye to everyone. I was upset and felt like he ruined my night, but I brushed it off. When I got the pictures from the night back, there were so many of me being super happy, and him just looking at me in anger. I'm not saying I was right in any of this, and I regret what I said deeply. The next day was the military ball. I made it clear I didn't want to go this year. We had a great time last year, but I knew it wasn't going to be good this year. I had a better time last year because one of my friends was dating one of my boyfriend's friends in the program, so I had a companion, and I knew more people. My boyfriend had a falling out with all his suite mates, the only people I knew at the ball, and my friend broke up with the guy in the program, so I had no one at the ball. I still tried my best and things were fine in the beginning. I joked with his friend who gave us a ride to the ball. But on the way into the ball, the strap of my dress broke, and my whole front was exposed, not in front of everyone. My boyfriend tried his best to fix it, but the dress was sitting awkwardly. I had a scarf with me luckily and tried to wrap it around me elegantly, but I was uncomfortable and anxious the rest of the night. At the cocktail hour I still tried to keep up a good appearance, and was fine when we came across two people we knew and I was allowed to talk to, but then the trouble started again when we were at the actual dinner. We were sat at a table with all my boyfriend's new friends, so he was very happy. The problem for me was that they were all guys, no one had a date, and they clearly wanted a bros night, and I felt like me being there was just the vibe. My boyfriend also didn't introduce me to anyone, and no one tried to talk to me. My boyfriend said I should have introduced myself and tried to join in on the conversation. I know he's right, I just felt very awkward. I didn't want to get up on the line for food as I was nervous my scarf would shift, and I would end up exposing myself. He brought food to me, but I still didn't want to eat for the same reason. I kept my arms crossed over my chest and was just in my head the rest of the night. We didn't dance or take any pictures. Overall, it was a bust and my boyfriend didn't speak to me at all the rest of the night. We talked about it the next day and he expressed how hurt he was, and how he felt like I ruined his reputation, and now his friends were critiquing me saying I was an angry, unpleasant person. I apologized and said I would do better next year, but he said that wasn't enough. It was definitely a huge crack in our relationship, and the beginning of the end. We didn't really get to see each other the next week, and then he went on a study abroad trip to London for 10 days. I went to his dorm to see him off, but he was very uncommunicative and preoccupied. I helped him pack and left him to it. It's important to note that the academic portion of the trip was only 6 days. I knew he was going early, and asked who he was going with. He said he didn't have any plans and would figure it out when he got there. He texted me when he landed in London, and then I didn't hear from him for the rest of the day. I texted him at the end of the day saying I'd wished he would have reached out, but I understood he was busy and excited, and hoped he was having a good time. I didn't hear from him again the next day, and when I finally heard from him the third day, he said he'd gotten blackout drunk the first night, cried in a train station in front of his friends, and was embarrassed. He said he cried because of the state of our relationship and because of the military ball. I didn't know he was still so upset about it, so I was confused. I later found out he was hanging out with a guy and 2 girls, and booked his hotel with them. So he lied about not knowing who he'd be with. He said he lied because he knew I didn't like the guy he was going with. He harassed me at a party a year ago and thought I would be jealous about the girls. I have shown no jealous indications other than expressing I was experiencing some flashbacks of my ex who cheated on me when he went away to university, and my new boyfriend going to London without me was bringing up some triggers. My boyfriend and I talked through it, and he said he'd be more communicative, and I apologized for making him feel like he couldn't tell me things, even though I would have been open enough to not cause a problem for him before he left, if he had just been open with him. The other reason I was upset with him on this trip, besides the fact he kept not talking to me, time zone wasn't an issue as I wake up very early and go to sleep very late because of work, was because he stayed out getting drunk from 2 to 4 a.m. every night, and on his final night he stayed out until 5 a.m. We have a no heavy drinking rule in our relationship, and he even said on the phone while drunk that if I was doing what he was doing, he would be upset, but I should be okay with it because he had a rough semester, which he honestly did. We agreed to stop talking the rest of the trip, and I picked him up from the airport when he came back. We talked it through and had a nice night, and I thought that was the end of it. Unfortunately, because of the London trip, I got very insecure. He went out with his friends one night and I gave him an ultimatum to pick them or me, because I felt like after a week of ignoring me and since he'd be leaving to go home soon, he should be with me. This made him very angry, and I agree it was unfair. I got upset because I felt like he put no effort into trying to comfort me, like him seeing me before or after they hung out. He ended up asking me to come to campus. We made up, he went out, we were supposed to hang out after, but then campus security said the guest rules had changed because it was move-out week. We went to get some food to go, then ate in my car. He started to get sleepy and I was very upset because it was only 10 p.m., and I felt hurt because I felt boring and like he didn't want to be with me, but we made up anyway. We went out the next night, had some drinks, got a little tipsy, then went back to mine. Same thing happened, 10 p.m. came and he started falling asleep. I got very angry because I just felt like time with me didn't matter to him at all. He got upset that we were having a good night and I ruined things again. He got upset that I was being so inflexible. And I agree, since January I had been extra inflexible because of some things going on in my life. Then he goes back home, and he has 2 weeks until he's supposed to go on a trip that lasts all summer for the military. We were supposed to hang out for 4 days during the week, then he canceled because of his parents. I got upset because when I called him he didn't seem to care we wouldn't be able to hang out. Same thing happens his last week. We're supposed to hang out, he canceled on me 4 times. He's leaving for the summer on Monday, but yesterday I picked him up from the train station to get an early dinner and hang out. I ask him if he wants to come back to my place or if he wants me to bring him to the train. He says he'd rather walk around where we were. It was super hot outside, so I asked why he didn't want to come back to mine. He asked if my mother was home. I said no. He said then okay, we can go back. I was super confused on what my mother had to do with anything. And he said he didn't want to be double-teamed. I was so confused on what he meant. He said his parents don't think he should be around my mother because of something I told him she said on Mother's Day. On Mother's Day, the mother of my mom's boyfriend's Bill asked if I had a boyfriend because she wanted to set me up with her grandson. My mother said I had a boyfriend but things might be ending soon if he didn't start treating me right. After that, I knew my boyfriend was upset, but he told his parents about it, and the next day he suggested we go on a break for the rest of the summer because he needs to focus. He said he didn't want to but his parents thought that was for the best. We didn't end up going on a break. So back to yesterday after he says that about my mom, I said my mom has no problem with him, and she just said something stupid while tipsy on Mother's Day. So then he asked if we could just go back to mine and I said no unless he took back what he said about my mother. He brought up how he was still hurt about military ball, how he didn't think I could handle his military career, and how he needed to focus 110% on this summer, and he couldn't be the man I wanted him to be. He said we had matured into different people. In the time he was talking, I heard his parents, not him. I was frustrated and tired so I just kept driving to the train station after that. He asked where that left us. And I said if he didn't want to work through things then all that was left was to break up. He slouched back in his seat, and we went back and forth on it for a bit. We hugged it out, said goodbye, and broke up at the train station. Later on in the night I realized how bad I fucked up. I knew he didn't want to break up, he kept saying how confused he was. I should have just let him have space. I told him I fucked up and it didn't matter if he couldn't be the man I wanted him to be, he was always the man I wanted. He told me he'd call me in the morning, which he did. I told him I didn't want to break up, but I understood we both needed time apart to grow and mature. I asked if we could stay together, but not talk the rest of the summer. He said no and that he needed the push to get through the summer. He said he had too much going on to focus on us. And he had a lot of reconsidering to do. He said he wasn't deleting the pictures of us on his phone, that he wouldn't be seeing other people this summer. He said I could if I wanted and he wouldn't hold it against me if I did, but I said I wasn't going to do that and he said although he couldn't promise me, we could try to get back together when he comes back at the end of August, beginning of September. I was deeply hurt but felt a little better than last night. I told him I would also try to grow, which I genuinely have started to and have realized some things about myself amongst all this. We ended saying we could still be friends, and he said he would reach out to me at the end of August. So while I don't know what will happen, my hope is we can both grow, and we can get back together in the fall semester. I'm sorry this was so long. I'm sure no one will read this far if at all, but just in case, please give your thoughts and advice. If anyone asks, I may update this if he reaches out at the end of August. But for now I am going to try to enjoy my summer, stay busy, and I'd love advice on how to get through and navigate this time of my life.